Hey, happy Friday night. Big night for bets. I got Oregon State tonight +4 at Washington. I got some basketball. I'm getting ready to load up for tomorrow because we got a long day of college football. Some really exciting games. This is the first week in, I don't know how many, 3 or 4, that Nebraska's not in the afternoon or evening slate. So I'm going to warm up with a Nebraska game. The only problem with warming up with the Nebraska game is if they don't win, you have this sour taste in your mouth. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. You still want to watch the rest of the games of the day, but it's just not as fun because you're not looking forward to that Nebraska game later on. I will say I do prefer the evening games over the morning games, and that goes for whether I'm watching it at home or whether I'm going to the game. If you're going to the game, you obviously want the evening game because you have all day to drink and party and eat and hang out with your friends, talk about the game, watch some other ones, and it turns into like this full spectacle, right? My best experiences at football games are always night games, just hands down. When you're at home, like I just said, you get to watch all the other games and enjoy watching other teams lose, and it's not as painful because you didn't have to sit through any BS with Nebraska earlier on in the day. The other thing is, for me, being in California, this game tomorrow starts at 9 a.m., which means I'm going to wake up at 8:45 because I'll go to bed late tonight watching the college games. And then I'll have to wake up early to get engaged and locked in, which is fine. I can always get up and excited for a game. I don't ever have to worry about that. It's just, I prefer it a little bit later on. Anyway, we'll see what time some of these other games are the rest of the year. My guess is we're going to get Wisconsin in the afternoon. Obviously, this won't be announced until after Michigan, I don't think. My preference, 4:30. That'd be ideal because I'm going to that one. I'd get to see some of you guys beforehand. But worst case, we'll figure it out. But what's up, guys? I see you all in the chat. Corn Crazed Army. I love the Corn Crazed Army nickname for everybody. I think that goes well because you guys are an army. I was talking to my dad this morning. He had some feedback for the channel. My dad's a really smart business guy. So he watches my videos and there's always critique. And it's not that he's trying to critique me to be negative. It's that he's trying to critique me to make sure that the experience for you guys is better every single time, right? He actually helped me to invest in some things for the channel, like my teleprompter to get me to be a little bit more focused on what we're talking about and let the show flow a little bit more. Obviously, I don't use a teleprompter and have any notes for this show because this goes off what you guys want to talk about and some key points that I think about beforehand. But in my other shows that are quicker, the 15-minute ones, I use the teleprompter to help outline what we're going to talk about for the day and to keep me on track with where we're going so I don't wander off and then end up with a 40-minute video, but you guys only get 20 minutes of value. I make sure that you get 15 minutes of value in a 15-minute video or 20 minutes or whatever that is, and then you guys can go along with your day and don't feel like you wasted any time here. Anyway, talking to my dad, he was talking about how crazy the comments are because you guys don't do what normal YouTube subscribers do, which is leave a emoji or leave a sentence. Most of you guys leave paragraphs with your thoughts. And I'm assuming you do this because you know I read them. And I read every single one. I can't respond to every single one because me sitting on my phone trying to type back while I'm doing other stuff is really hard. And the comments have just gone crazy. We get 200 plus comments every single video. And most of them deserve a lot of attention, not just a quick emoji response. But I do my best. Point is, he was really impressed and he could not believe how engaged everyone is. And that's a credit to the Corn Crazed Army, let me tell you, because nobody else can claim an Army audience if you aren't getting comments like that. Anyway, we've got what does my dad do for work? My dad's retired. My dad's 62. So he hangs out in Oklahoma and he travels around. And yeah, he used to run a bunch of golf courses. He still has some golf courses now and his background's in golf. But he's really smart business guy. I get a lot of what I learned and what I know from him, which has been really cool. Anyway, talking about, oh guys, I forgot my red light and I just need it on. Hang on one sec. Just a better room experience. That's better. Anyway, there's a big game tomorrow with this Minnesota game. And it's important because there's still life for Nebraska. And all week, we've seen other people talk about how important it was that we focus on the 2022 season and not just on the 2023 season because we've still got 4 games left, including tomorrow. I totally agree with that, okay? First thing. But at the same time, there are a lot of people, when I say a lot, I mean almost 15,000 people who are subscribed to this channel who want to talk about more than just the game tomorrow, right? They want to talk about the future because this season's been a bit disappointing and a bit underwhelming, and it's hard to just get amped up for games when you know what the outcome might likely be since we've seen this movie before. So because I don't want to just force you guys to embrace what we're watching this season, not that I want to take anything away from this season because we still have those 4 games left, like I said, I like to explore the future, and we're going to do that today. We're going to watch the Go Big Red project video, talk about this new facility because I think that's important, and I haven't touched on it yet, and I want you guys to see what's coming because that video didn't have that many views, so I know there are a lot of people who still haven't seen it yet. But anyway, I think it's important we talk about the game for tomorrow because, like I said, there's still hope, and I actually do have some belief that this team can pull off a miracle. We broke down Minnesota a little bit yesterday. I didn't get that deep into it, but some things to know, right, that I don't think I talked about yesterday. You've got Tanner Morgan, who I believe is more of a game manager than he is a game-changing quarterback. That's the first thing. Mo Ibrahim is a running back who's probably a little bit, what's the word? Okay, a little bit less explosive than Chase Brown was at Illinois. And when I say less explosive, I mean less explosive in the long run. So Chase Brown can break 1 for 50. I think Mo does that less often. He's more likely to pound out a 3 to 7 yard carry than he is to break off for 40. He's just a different style of back. He's bulkier. He's harder to bring down. Uh, but he's not going to break you, right, with one giant play. And I'm sure he's had some, but I don't think that's the type of running back he is. Another thing to note is that Minnesota's receivers aren't elite. We've seen them with some really good receivers in the past. They had Chris Ottman-Bell, who's not playing right now. They had Rashad Bateman, Tyler Johnson, some guys who were in the NFL. I think Rashad Bateman's on the Minnesota Vikings. Tyler Johnson, I believe, still plays on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Both of those guys have been productive in the NFL so far, and they were really good back in, 2018, 19, 20, somewhere around there. Those guys were really good for Minnesota. But their offense has changed since then. And I think it's important we note this isn't a team who is dominant in any phase. They're good. They're sound. They have a quarterback who's been there for 6 years. Like I said, more of a game manager. He completes the throws, but they don't ask him to make any crazy throws. Think of Tanner Morgan a bit like you think of Adrian Martinez. And when I say that, it's more of a quarterback who's asked to check it down, a quarterback who's asked to throw it no more than 10 yards. He has the occasional one he'll air out, but for the most part, the DBs just have to worry about a few things underneath and things that aren't going to gash them for 40 or 50 yards like we saw against Purdue or like we saw against, who else did that to us? Oklahoma. Anybody who we've played in the past who has an explosive offense, just look at them completely different than you look at Minnesota, because this isn't the same type. One of the reasons I was so excited about Minnesota being a 16-point favorite is because I don't think, even with Nebraska's quarterback issue, that Minnesota has the offense that's going to be able to separate themselves from Nebraska by that much, because they're going to run the ball. They could end up scoring 7 points a quarter. They'd still win the game in all likeliness, but they don't need to run up the score or do much. They just need to ground the ball out, wear the defense down, and take away opportunities from the offense. The other thing that Minnesota does really well, they convert on third downs. We talked about that yesterday. I'm not sure what their fourth down conversion percentage is, not that that matters, but they're really good at getting it from third to first. And when they do that enough times, as we've seen this season with the other teams we've played, Nebraska just can't keep up. The time of possession is so huge, right? Because you want to be able to hold on to the ball so that your defense doesn't get worn out. Nebraska's been in these spots multiple times this year where their offense just can't convert. They can't pick up first downs, and the defense just gets worn. We get into the depth, and ultimately teams just keep driving it down and driving it down. And Minnesota has the capability to do that. So just something to think about. I wanted to show you some stats for Minnesota, so you know some names. And I'm going to get to chat in just 1 second. I just want to get through this. So Tanner Morgan's completing 67% of his passes, nothing new. 7 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. The backup 1 touchdown to 3. So they do turn the ball over. They've got as many touchdown passes as they do interceptions. But this defense forces a lot of turnovers, and that's something to watch out for. When you're working with a backup quarterback, or in Nebraska case, hopefully 2 with Smothers and Purdy, we're hoping we don't see any funky ball play, right? We don't want to see Chuba get nervous or Logan get nervous and either pitch the ball out to get somebody who's not there, like we've seen Logan do in the past, or have Chuba throw it across his body to an invisible target, because that's something he's done. I really have confidence they're going to play a little bit tighter this week, and the game plan is going to be more friendly to their skill set to make sure that we have less likelihood to turn it over. Because as long as Nebraska doesn't turn it over, I think they'll be in this game all the way through. A likely circumstance would be 17-0 at half if the offense was non-competitive in the first half, right? Let's say they got to 17-0 or 17-3. Well, that game is still in reach, right? When you watch the Purdue game, Nebraska was down, I think, 14-13 at half. They were able to storm back and were well within that game, even in the final 3 minutes. So this game should be something Nebraska's going to be able to keep close to some degree. The receivers aren't elite. They're okay, and they make plays. 13 yards a catch, 16 yards a catch, 13 yards a catch, 20 yards a catch. Well, Ottman-Bell's gone. But they're one of the best receivers as a tight end. And I just don't think we're going to have to worry about the big play, like I said, which is going to really help us out. The line is already dropped. So last night I told you get on Nebraska plus 16. That already moved to 14.5. I still think I'm going to ride at 14.5. Nebraska's going to score tomorrow. It's going to happen. Whether that's 7, 10, 13, I'm not sure. Things go crazy, 14, maybe 17. And in a miracle, if Mark Whipple somehow gets the guys ready, Nebraska very well could score 21-24. Minnesota has an offense, and Nebraska has a defense that might be able to hold Minnesota to 21, 20, 17. Honestly, they could. I'm not trying to feed you false hope, but I do want you to realize there's a path to victory here. And when you watch this game, you should watch this with hope and not just dread of failure. Because there have been times when we've been crippled and we would watch it with dread of failure. This isn't one of them. This is a game that's winnable. This is a team that's not as good as Illinois was last week, and even with that Illinois game, Nebraska was in it till the very end. Well, in it till the very end with Casey. That's what I meant to say, because Nebraska was down 3 points with Casey. Once he was out, game was over in my opinion. And yeah, I would assume we can do the same if we have a decent game plan going forward. So I'm excited for it. Gary, thank you for the $20 super chat. MJ has the team fired up, and they have promised MJ a win. Your thoughts as to the team's enthusiasm? Well, look, Mickey Joseph has proven to be the right guy when it comes to culture. He's proven to be the right guy when we're talking about a player's coach. He's one of the best players coaches that Nebraska's had, period. I'm not sure how Bo Pelini was as a player's coach now that I think of it. I know guys wanted to get up for him, but it just feels different with Mickey. He's one of them. I think that's the difference, right? He was in their shoes. A lot of them came from where he's from Louisiana, or from the South in general. And they feel like they're one of him. He's a former player. He's a younger guy. I mean, he's 50, but Mickey doesn't feel like a 50-year-old man, right? So because of that, I think that gets guys amped up. They feel like he's in the locker room with them. You saw it when they gave the game ball to Mickey, or Trev gave the game ball to Mickey after that IU win. And Mickey was cheering and smiling with the team. They started chanting his name. This guy is the ultimate player's coach, and I know they want to win for him. So they're not going to give up. And that's one of the key things here. One thing that would be hard to do is talk about Nebraska right now with an interim head coach who couldn't get his players amped up, because you'd see a lot more guys in the transfer portal. You'd see more guys who were lethargic or bored or over it. And I just don't think we see that. So promising him a win is tough. You can't promise a win, right? Because an individual player can promise a win. They can promise their best effort, and I'm going to win the day. But there's 22 players who start. There's an additional 10 who rotate, let's say. Let's say there's going to be 45 players who get on the field tomorrow, including guys on special teams. 45 players need to play a really good game tomorrow for Nebraska to win this game. And even if we get 20 of them to play it, they'll still probably lose. So it's tough. I don't think you can promise a win, but I do think you can promise giving your best effort, and I think that's something we're going to see, so I'm very excited for that. John, thank you for becoming a member of the channel. We've got another super chat here. Brian, thank you for the $20. Just want to say thanks for the time you put into these videos to bring us great content, GBR. Of course, hey, I've said this before, and for those who haven't heard me say it before, I'm going to say it again. I am not here without you. It's really important that I have the engagement from you guys for me to be able to sustain this channel, because, like I said, I don't work during football season. I focus on this. I do a little bit of consulting. Let me not lie. I help my friend a little bit with her business, but I almost never travel anymore. I travel a ton during the off season. Like, I'm only home 2 weeks in the month, so I travel a lot for work. So I spent so much time on this channel because of you guys and your engagement. And now we have a sponsor who helps me to be able to create more content. And yeah, you guys have helped out by buying the merch. That's been huge. So if you haven't got your merch yet, corncraze.com/GBR. You can get stickers, wristbands, hat, shirt, hoodie, whatever you want, socks. But the point is, yeah, it's a big deal that you guys are here, and that's why I'm able to create so much. So thank you for being here, Brian. Also, I need to address something from yesterday. And I've had, so this is going to be a little entertaining part for some of you. Some of you might find this offensive. Some of you, I don't know what your opinions are going to be. Who knows? Here's the moral of this story, though, before I even get into the story. The moral of the story is I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do what I think is right. I have common sense. I make sure that I do what's best for the masses, and I do what's best for myself and for you as a whole, okay? So there have been parents who've reached out to me, less than 10, over the last 3 years, who've asked me to tone down my language because in my live streams I might drop F-bombs, or I might say, who knows, I just drop, you guys have heard me talk. I get excited and I say some things. And they said, hey, can you tone down your language? I watch this with my kid in the car and I don't want them to hear that language, or things like that. And I nicely tell them, hey, in my regular videos, I try to keep it as clean as possible, but on these live streams, they're a little bit more intimate, and they're with my friends. I consider you guys my friends, so you're people who I would go to the bar with and hang out with. So because of that, I'm going to talk the way I'm going to talk. I do my best to hold back and not go crazy and say some foul things, but I am going to talk the way I'm going to talk. Yesterday, I made a joke on the channel. I said something about Lane Kiffin, and when I was making the joke, it sounded funny. It sounded like I was making gay comments toward Lane Kiffin, like I like guys kind of thing, you know? Anyway, so at the end, it was a funny placement for me to say, no homo. That's not an offensive joke. It's not offensive to any gay people I know. I live in West Hollywood. I go to the gay bars all the time. I'm around gay people all the time. I can confirm this is not offensive to any gay people I know. I had a comment on the channel. I didn't see it. A gay subscriber actually messaged me right before the show and wanted me to see this. He said, hey, I need you to see this on behalf of gay people. I was like, what? I was confused by it. So I read this comment and then his comment. It says, come on, Connor. You really think you need to say what you said following that you like Lane Kiffin? People are unsubscribing because of that, and I'm thinking about it. You'll turn fans off and alienate people with comments like that, whether you think that way or not. You should avoid comments like that. It's childish and lame, and you're from the progressive land of Cali. You should know better. Disappointing, man. First off, I don't want to lose you as a subscriber, UUADE. I think maybe you're triggered for a reason that I don't know, actually. I can't even tell you what you'd be triggered over except the no homo joke. I'm going to continue to be me, like I said before. I don't want to lose you. I think you contribute great comments. I've seen your comments before, and I don't want you to leave. But I'm also not going to make my channel boring. This is who I am, and as long as I'm not offending people, I'm going to continue to do it. If you are offended by this, though, you should reach out to me because I'd love to talk to you about it and help you get through whatever you're going through. So my gay subscriber reaches out to me, tcordell6077. He commented this, but it wouldn't pop up on the channel. YouTube was censoring it, so he left this comment back. He said, as one of Connor's actual gay viewers, I'm going to need you to relax. You're making us look like a bunch of pansies. In fact, I can tell you're not gay because gay men can take a pounding, and here you are whining over someone saying no homo on the internet. Whatever. The point is, I don't think most people were offended by that joke. I'm going to continue to make jokes, and if you are offended by anything I say and you want to leave, I totally understand and respect it. I wish you wouldn't, but I get it. If what I say is too hard for you to hear, I'm the wrong channel for you because I barely even scratch the surface of what's out there on the internet, and I'm being nice and respectful towards everyone. So I just wanted to drop that in and let you guys all know I appreciate you, and if you do ever get offended by anything I say, like UUADE just did for whatever reason, let me know. Yeah, there's nothing I can do is kind of my point. I'm never going to be hurtful, though. That's the thing. I'll always defend all my people. Like if you're a gay subscriber and someone made a mean gay comment, I'll always defend you, right? If someone said it about race or anything else, I actually had to block someone who was targeting women in my comments, and there's a bunch of women who subscribe to the channel, and I had no idea about that before, but I'm glad now that I did go so hard and defend women and block that guy from the comment section for harassing people. So anyway, I'll always defend people and always take care of my subscribers because you guys are my family, and yeah, you know that. You're with me, you know, at least 2-3 times a week on these live streams. We have a great time together, and yeah, I hope that guy gets the help he needs because I'm not offensive, not on this channel at least. Wow, Red Forever says, please pray for my son. He's a big Nebraska fan and a fan of my show. He's in a severe rollover and he's been in a coma for 2 weeks. Okay, well, I'm really sorry. I really hope he gets better. That's terrible. I don't know how that would have happened. I'm assuming when you say a rollover, I'm guessing you mean in a car. That's horrible, though. But yeah, you have my prayers 100%. And I'm sure the rest of the chat's praying for him, too. Matthew says, Connor brings so much excitement and passion to this channel. You can feel and see his pure enjoyment, everything he comes on here. Yeah, I love being here with you guys. That's the thing. I love to be in a group of people who think the same way I do and who have the same passions as I do. And one thing that we can all share in is our joy and happiness around Nebraska football, right? So I love being around and love talking to you guys. There's one more thing I want to mention before I get back to the show. So you guys know that I had testicular cancer back at the end of July. I had to have surgery for it. I did chemo last month for it. It messed up my content for a week, but no big deal. I'm back on track and normal, right? They had to take my ball out, but we kept moving on. When that happened, I told you guys because it was going to mess up content, but I didn't tell any of my friends really. I told like 10 close friends in LA, all right? So one of my friends, when I told him, he was like, hey, I've got this weird stomach thing, and I don't know what it is. And I was like, oh, well, maybe because I'm telling you about my situation, you're now freaking yourself out, right? He's like, yeah, I don't know. I just had a hernia and I had surgery for the sports hernia deal. Maybe it's that. Anyway, 3 months passes. I think it's been about 3 months. So 3 months passes. He calls me today. He's like, hey, I have testicular cancer. He's like, that weird stomach feeling I had 3 months ago was actually that. And he's got to have surgery now on Tuesday, which is crazy. So fortunately for him, he gets the whole rundown for me because I just went through it all. So it's not as scary because I can explain, step by step what's going to happen and how it all goes. But the point is, um, between your 20s and 30s, and I know we have a bunch of guys between age 20 and 30 watching this show. That's the most likely time that you can get testicular cancer or prostate, I think, as well. So if you're in that age range, just make sure you're checking yourself. Watch for any weird feelings. The doctor told me there are a lot of men who don't get checked for it because they get nervous or they don't think about it because it's kind of a weird thing. You don't really notice. It's just kind of a tingly feeling when you have that. And she said that a lot of people just don't go in for it, and then it spreads and becomes a way bigger problem. So my point is, if I'm telling 10 people and one of those 10 people I told had it, crazy. Just make sure you're watching out for yourself. So I just wanted to share that with you guys because obviously I care about you and I want to make sure you guys are all good as well. Anyway. Simple Jack says later snowflakes. That's funny. And that's in response to my earlier comment about no homo. And yeah, that's kind of how I feel. If someone wants to leave over anything I say on my channel, go ahead. I just can't help you. I'm not going to censor myself for no reason. I'm not 12. I'm a 29-year-old guy. This is Bar Talk. And if you don't like Bar Talk, then this is the wrong channel for you. It's kind of like Barstool. If you guys like Barstool content, you'll probably like my content. If you don't like Barstool, then maybe you won't like me. Think of it that way. Travis says Ramir Johnson needs to get in the rotation. I think he's a talent not being used. So I think we're going to see him again this week. I just think he's been better than Jaquez Yant. I say that. But when I say better than Jaquez Yant, I mean over the entire last 2 years. Because this year, how do you compare the two? Jaquez Yant has played a significant amount of snaps, and Ramir's played, what, like 6? So it's hard to say he's been better than recently. But over the entire body, I would say Ramir's been much better than Jaquez Yant. If we could get more Ramir Johnson, I think he adds another dimension to the offense. A lot of people were talking about on Twitter last week how crucial that catch would have been before Casey got hurt. I believe it was 2 plays before Casey got hurt. Ramir came out of the backfield. He was 15 to 20 yards downfield, and a ball hit him in the hands. Might not have been the best thrown ball. I can't remember specifically how it looked, but I do know it hit him in the hands, and then it hit the ground. And a play or two later, Casey went out. And a lot of people said if Ramir caught that ball, we were in field goal range. We at least would have gotten 3. Likely would have driven the field because we had momentum and scored a TD, gone up by 10 on Illinois at that point, and the entire outlook of the game would have changed. Now, I'm not here to talk about all that because who knows what would have happened, and I don't want to get all excited and worked up about something that happened in the past. It is what it is. But I will say this. Ramir Johnson hasn't had enough experience this year. And because of that, or hasn't had enough playing time this year. And because of that, the lack of experience is showing. He's dropping balls. He's not as ready to go. A guy's got to get in rhythm. Typically, they get in rhythm in those first 4 weeks when you play non-conference teams. Nebraska didn't have that luxury. They got thrown straight into Big Ten play and then obviously had to play OU. But even then, they were blown out in the OU game and could have used Ramir a little bit more. Who knows? Point is, I think we got to give Ramir some more chances. What I say doesn't matter. Brian Applewhite is not watching this show right now, and neither is Mickey Joseph, and neither are going to make a decision based on what you and I think, unfortunately. But I will say, if they have any ounce of hope in their heart for the running game, I would hope they would implement Ramir Johnson because it will keep the defense on their heels. Because if Ramir's in the game, it's not always a run play. Whereas if you see Jaquez Yant back there, it's more likely that it's going straight up the middle. There's no outside option. There's no pass option. It's ground and pound, straight up the gut. With Ramir, he can take it straight up the middle. He can run it outside. He can play in the zone read system, or he can run it, or he can run a route on the outside, a little wheel, whatever we want to do with him. I think that's really clutch. So hopefully they play him more. But yes, Travis, I agree with you. Sam says, do you think Wisconsin could be a night game? I'm not sure. That's a good question. I think it could. I'm not sure how likely it is. I think it's more likely to be an afternoon game. If it's a night game, we all win. So that'd be fantastic. Getting through chat, guys. What does this mean, Corey? I don't understand. I don't know what the Garda security trucks are 4 deep in Lincoln yesterday. I will say this. First, before I say anything about this, I want to make sure I plug Husker Online because that's where this information came from. People sent me screenshots today. So Husker Online is on the On3 network. It's where you get the latest breaking news. You get all of the most up-to-date information about the coaching search, about any injury reports, about anything going on with Nebraska football. It's a great resource. If you're a serious Nebraska fan, like if you subscribe to Crazed, I would assume you're subscribed to the Red Sea Scrolls, which is the Husker Online On3 site. It's $1 for the year. I encourage every single one of you to go and sign up for it. I make no money on this. I have no ties to them. I don't know anybody at Husker Online. Never met Sean Callahan. No relationship. This is just genuine Husker fan to genuine Husker fan. Go sign up for that if you want the latest and most up-to-date information. I don't even share everything they post because I don't feel good about sharing it. Like, it's their info, not my info to share, right? So I don't ever share it. This channel isn't news or any of that. This channel, like you guys know, is just reactions, ideas, and fun content. I'm not a news reporter or anything like that. But he did release today, and a bunch of people sent it to me. Some of the names are Mark Stoops. That's a big one, which I already know. Mark Stoops is being targeted by Auburn. He's one of their top guys. So Mark Stoops is a guy who Nebraska's going to look at possibly. Dave Doran, which I've mentioned in the videos multiple times, he's a realistic option. And Dave Doran is in his, 10th season at NC State, and it could be his last because they're going down the hill they're going downhill with no QB. The guy got hurt a few weeks ago, and that's really derailed their season. They could lose this week, so it's a problem for him. But he does have a proven track record of player development, good recruiting, and sending guys out to the NFL, as well as plenty of 9-win seasons. So Dave Doran's another one who's realistic. Someone said that Dave Aranda is not realistic anymore. I think it was Sipple. And he's not realistic anymore because Baylor will match whatever offer Nebraska tries to throw out there. It would probably be too expensive to try and outbid them, and we know that Trev doesn't want to get into a bidding war with anyone. Trev's objective is to get a coach who is the right fit and isn't going to cost an arm and a leg. I say an arm and a leg. To us, an arm and a leg is much different, right? But to Trev, I don't think he wants to get into any $90 million deals, right? And I think that's what it might take to get a guy like Dave Aranda, because Baylor would probably say, we'll match you at $75 million for 10 years or whatever that is. So Dave Aranda doesn't sound realistic. The other coaches, Matt Rule has been talked about a bunch. Mickey Joseph is one. It's going to really come down. Oh, and the other one that was mentioned was Chris Kleiman. So that's one that's a possible. I don't think it's very possible, but it's possible. And then there's a bunch of other coaches around the country who are obviously interested in this job. I just don't know how qualified they are. And likely they're guys who we aren't even talking about as fans because we don't even recognize them as quality candidates. They're not guys who've been thrown out in this initial round. So because of that, who knows what's going to happen? I don't think that we know I don't think Trev knows which direction he's going yet. I don't think Mickey has this job for sure. I don't think any of these other coaches have this job for sure. I think we're in a huge wait and see spot, as I've said for the past couple months. And I think a win tomorrow would do wonders for Mickey. I think it would be a total game changer for him in his job future at Nebraska. But I don't know that a win would obviously guarantee him the job either. So it's an interesting time. So just a thought. What are my thoughts on Mel Tucker's contract? $9.5 million per year for 10 years with only $2.5 million buyout. I don't think that's accurate. I saw some people talk about a $2 million buyout. I don't believe that to be true. Let's see. I'll tell you right now. Mel Tucker buyout. People messaged me about this yesterday. No new buyout terms. So people in the chat are clearly reading Google. I don't know. Odd. So maybe if he's not given a buyout, he has a guarantee on that contract. So I'm not sure how much that guarantee is. He's not gonna have zero buyout because he's gonna get something guaranteed. If that is actually true and that it is actually a $2.5 million buyout, I think that's fantastic. That's a great contract, but it's odd to me. It's odd to me. Mel Tucker though didn't have as many other options. Where else was he gonna go? But you can easily lose Mel Tucker at that point. So what's the point of even giving him that 10-year, $9.5 million deal with no buyout? It just something doesn't add up there. So yeah, I don't know. My thoughts on it are, I think they went way too big on Mel Tucker way too early. But if you're Michigan State and your hope is that he gets to 8 wins a year, you feel good about that. Mel Tucker right away was able to get him to 10 or 11 wins. So if you can average out 8 wins over the next 10 years, that'd be fantastic. He's in a down year this year, but I'm sure things will pick back up and he'll get back to 7 or 8. So yeah. Snosberry says, "What's up, Connor? Got the stickers from Trivia in the mail yesterday. Nice. Glad that you got the stickers, Herbcat. And Michelle got her stickers and her bracelets. Fantastic. All right, Mr. Herbie says, what are your thoughts for QB tomorrow? Yeah, so this is an interesting one. There's no guarantee that Casey's not going to play. There's an assumption that he's not going to play. And I'm going to guess, if I'm going to assume, I'm going to guess he's not going to. If he doesn't, I am guessing they're going to run a 2 QB system. I'm guessing they're going to have to try and run the ball a little bit. It's going to be cold out. You're going to want to ground and pound. I don't know. People said it's going to be windy. 10-mile-an-hour winds. Is that windy? I don't know what 10-mile-an-hour winds should feel like. It's not very windy where I live. But if it is windy, maybe you run it a little bit more with Logan Smothers. You know, I think the reason Logan hasn't gotten that many opportunities is because he hasn't been a fit in the Mark Whipple offense. Honestly, that's why Smothers hasn't gotten as much opportunity. And I do think it's been unfair. He should have gotten more playing time. I do think that if they want to win tomorrow, they do need to use him a little bit at least. Chuba Purdy's a good element, but Chuba Purdy's not going to run as well as Logan Smothers will. And I think if you can confuse the defense just a little bit, it might help. I was watching the Coastal Carolina game last night. They were playing at home against App State. App State has a notoriously good defense and pretty good offense. And they had a 2 QB system, at least at the end, when Grayson McCall got hurt. He hurt his ankle. He could no longer run. They would rotate McCall to throw it, and then they'd rotate this number 12 guy who would run it. And it was a fantastic combo. They marched down the field 3 times and scored 3 touchdowns with that duo going back and forth. Nebraska has the 2 QBs to do that tomorrow. I'd love to see it. I just don't know that Mark Whipple will do it. And that's the thing. My thoughts on the QB situation, just to keep it simple, what I think doesn't line up with Mark Whipple's philosophy, at least to this point. So I don't know what we're going to see. It's a total wait and see mode. But my assumption is it's going to be Chuba for the most part. So we'll see. Simple Jack says a good coach would adjust to the players. So yeah, that's the thing. Tomorrow, we have a specific skill set at quarterback with Smothers. We have a specific skill set with Chuba. How do you maximize both of their skills to win the game? How do you give both of them a chance to see which one gives us a better opportunity to win? Because we don't know what Minnesota is going to be preparing for. Minnesota runs zone on defense, right? They're going to be playing, do they play quarters or they play halves? They play cover 2, I think. So they'll have 2 high safety who will be covering deep. So if you've got these 2 safeties dropping out, you're hopefully going to have something over the middle. Say a post where you can throw it underneath the safety to a guy like Trey Palmer or Marcus Washington. Well, can Logan Smothers deliver a 15-yard post pass? Or maybe it's 20 yards with a 5-step drop. Or do you need Chuba, who's a little bit more accurate on those mid-level throws? I do believe Logan's good in the short game. I think he could get it done if we're running slants, if he's running hitches, and if he's dumping things off like checkdowns to the running back. How effective can Logan be in the mid-range to the deep throws? And I don't know that we're going to go deep much tomorrow. You go deep in one-on-one if you're going man, right? But how often are you going to go deep when you've got a safety over the top? That's a question that I don't know the answer to because I'm not a quarterback. I'm not a coach. I don't know how likely it is and what the percentages are that you're going to win those battles. But I do know that these mid-range throws are going to be available. And there's one quarterback I'm confident can complete those. I just don't know that Logan's the one. So it's going to be interesting. These are just thoughts off the top of my head. So I don't know. I'm just spewing stuff out, trying to think of what's going to happen tomorrow. But I don't have like a set idea in my mind of how Nebraska is going to win the game because I don't know that Nebraska's offense is going to be strong enough, right? I've put a lot of thoughts into how Nebraska will win if their defense can perform. But I haven't put a lot of thoughts into how can Nebraska's offense win this game tomorrow because after we watched Illinois, it just felt like, with no Casey Thompson, this is going to be a tough one. With Casey, I do think Nebraska keeps it within 3, and it's similar to the Illinois scenario. I think it'd be a 3-point game either way. But without him, a lot more confusing. Don't get me started says he hasn't been impressed with anything he's seen Chubba do so far. We've seen Chubba in 2 situations. We saw him, when was it? The OU game, struggled mightily. And we saw him last week against Illinois. And yeah, he's 0 for 2 in our heads. That's why a lot of people are calling on Smothers, and a lot of people want to see him get a chance. So, makes sense. Gary, thank you for the $20 super chat again. If MJ isn't head coach or assistant coach, Nebraska is in a loss as to player development and signing to Nebraska. Yeah, I think that's probably true. I think if you lose Mickey Joseph as an assistant coach, period, you lose on recruiting. He's one of the best recruiters Nebraska's had in recent memory. He's one of the best recruiters in the country. He's actually somewhere along the lines of the guy who was with Mike Riley. Oh man, this guy's name, I've asked you guys before. He was the cornerbacks coach under Mike Riley. He was a great recruiter. What's his name, guys? I'm looking it up right now as fast as I can. Dante Williams. Got it. Got it before anyone in chat said it. I'm smart. So Dante Williams was an elite recruiter at Nebraska. He kind of forged that Calibraska movement. He was able to get a lot of those guys from Calabasas. He actually had Bookie, who was Oklahoma's starting corner or safety? Safety. He had Bookie, who was a 5-star, ended up as OU starting safety, then bounced out to University of Washington. Then he bounced over to the Bengals. He didn't get drafted. He got signed as a free agent, I believe. Point is, that guy was bringing in some star recruits, and we haven't seen anyone like him, like Deion Williams, since Mickey Joseph. So, yeah, we would take a significant step back. You know, when we talk about development, what's interesting and what hasn't been mentioned yet, at least not by me, Mickey Joseph is a fantastic receivers coach. But you know who else is, or who else was? Keith Williams. Keith Williams was, I would say, on par with what we're getting out of Mickey Joseph. He had a 1,000-yard receiver in Stanley Morgan Jr. Stanley Morgan Jr. started off under Keith Williams. So he had developed Stanley Morgan Jr. He had developed, I think, J.D. Spielman. He had developed some other guys, Brandon Riley, who ended up going from walk-on to the pros, had that game-winning touchdown in the Michigan State game. Anyway, there have been some guys who come in who've been good recruiters and good receivers coaches, and Mickey Joseph is the best one since either of those guys. So just something to keep in mind. And we've had 3 or 4 ever since. Like that gap, there's been 3 or 4 receivers coaches and big name recruiters who've come in who just were not as productive as Mickey's been. So yeah, I agree with you, Gary. Big drop off if we lose Mickey in any capacity. So hopefully we keep him. Getting back to chat, trying to respond to everybody. Roger likes my flannel. Thank you, Roger. Oh, and you like my watch with the flannel. It all matches, you're right. It's really prime. Look at K-State's backup situation. Purdy just isn't the guy. He's all hype. Okay. I've mentioned this. I don't know how deep I've gotten into it. Let's talk about it. Mark Whipple came in. And when Mark Whipple came in, he had a huge undertaking. He had to figure out how to get Mickey Joseph's receiving core, who was mostly new guys who Casey Thompson's ever worked with, to work well with Casey Thompson, right? Casey Thompson needed a lot of work and a lot of one-on-one time with those guys, and it didn't allow Whipple to give the same one-on-one time to Smothers or Chubba Purdy. Ultimately, it's left them a little bit in the dark, and we saw that in the last couple games that Chubba Purdy's shown up in. They're not as prepared. They're not as well developed. They got the short end of the stick, but it makes sense why. Because he needed to focus that time, attention, and energy to getting Casey on the same page as Trey, Marcus Washington, Oliver Martin, Travis Vokolek, Alante Brown, etc., right? If Mark Whipple was here for a couple more years, if Casey was here for a couple more years, and if you could develop these quarterbacks and you had more time to let them grow with these receivers, I think we'd see something closer to what we see with Will Howard. To be fair, Will Howard is not the normal backup QB. That guy is incredible. He is on par with Adrian Martinez. He runs it well. His deep ball is incredible. Will Howard can win you games. Chubba Purdy in the future could, but Chubba Purdy isn't ready yet, in my opinion. I do think it has something to do with Mark Whipple needing to focus more attention on Casey, though. That's the thing. So how much do you knock Chubba? How much do you knock Mark Whipple? It's hard. I don't want to be too judgmental because you have to understand the situation, the circumstance. High Mountain Guy says, Whipple is not all what I thought. I'm past not convinced, just in general. Hope I'm wrong. So I've had some thoughts about Mark Whipple, as many of us have. I've also had some thoughts about the offensive line coach, Donovan Raiola. My conclusion, after hours and plenty of videos talking about all of what has gone wrong so far this year, is that Mark Whipple came in to a team who was limited by their head coach, and he had to do what he could in a short amount of time, one offseason, to get a bunch of transfers together, make them all work together, and work with an offensive line who hasn't helped one bit. Mark Whipple has, in my opinion, done as good of a job as we could have hoped for, given the circumstances. I don't think he's an elite offensive coordinator, but I do think he's been good. And I don't think let me think about this. I don't think Mark Whipple is the reason we've lost all of these games. I think part of it's on the players and the execution. I think part of it's on the situation with not having much time to get on the same page as everybody. I think part of it's on the injuries. I think part of it's on the offensive line. I think part of it's on the Scott Frost cloud overhanging since the beginning. I do think Mark Whipple here longer, establishing some roots and having a better offensive line and some more time with his depth, he would have a more successful offense. Honestly, I do. I don't think he's as bad as some people want to make him out to be. It's just the situation has been really tough, and they weren't able to make it work as quickly as Trev Alberts and Scott Frost hoped, and we hoped it would have. I don't know who the guaranteed out and the questionable out are. I know the guaranteed out for the season would be Nick Henrich. I think questionable or guaranteed. I don't know that I don't think Kevin Williams is back yet. Kevin Williams Jr., the tackle guard who can play either. Don't think he's back. I do think Brock Banda will be back this week. Maybe a game time decision, but I do think he's back, which is going to really help Nebraska's offensive line. You need that depth bad. So outside of that, we'll see. Not sure. I think they release a depth chart before the game, and that'll give us all we need to know. But I don't think any big names or any new names have popped up that we haven't already known were questionable. I don't think Gabe Irvin's back yet. I don't think he's one who's going to be cleared. So that leaves us with Anthony Grant, Jaqueziant, and Ramir Johnson. Hopefully that means we'll see more of Ramir Johnson. Earlier on in this video, we did talk about Ramir. So if you didn't see that, you can go back and get my opinions on that. Bean says, what's the next Nebraska game I'll attend? I will be at the Wisconsin game. We talked about it a few times. I will for sure meet as many of you guys as possible. It's going to be fun. Just reading through comments, guys, or reading through chat. I want to get to everybody. Daniel says, Whipple's system works if you have an adequate line. And yeah, that's my opinion as well. Whipple likes to throw the ball, right? You can't throw the ball without an offensive line. I mean, you can't run the ball without an offensive line either, but especially when you're trying to throw, a quarterback can't get set. If you have a quarterback like 2 a.m., Adrian Martinez, you're in a lot better of a position. I might sound crazy. I think Nebraska's offense would have been better this year with Adrian Martinez than Casey Thompson. No knock on Casey. He's been great. He's been as good as we could have asked for. But because of the situation with the O-line, I think Whipple would have cleaned up some of his throwing issues, gotten him to make better reads, and Adrian would have been explosive, been able to make bigger plays, and the offense would be performing better, similar to what we've seen over the past couple of years. Adrian thrived even when the offensive line would break down. He would find ways to make it work. Obviously, he had his turnover issues because of the offensive line as well, but at least he was able to extend drives. So it's just my opinion. I very well could be wrong, but Adrian's very successful now behind a good offensive line, one of the top in the country, actually, probably a top 20, top 15 offensive line nationally over there at Kansas State, maybe even better than that. I've seen them ranked as high as 10 in some people's rankings. I don't know if they're that good, but they are really strong. That's part of the reason Kansas State wins so much. Offensive line is so important, man. Tristan says, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought keeping Mickey as an assistant coach was already mentioned by Trev if they hire a new OC. So I don't know. There's a lot of confusion here because there was a contract thing that went out that said Mickey's going to stay on staff. Then Sipple came on the radio yesterday and said there is no guarantee that Mickey will be back. Who knows what is going to happen? My guess is when you hire a coach who's a good coach, they're going to want to keep Mickey Joseph no matter what. That's my assumption. If you hire a coach who doesn't know what he's got in Mickey, which sounds ridiculous, maybe he lets him go. But I'm all on this kind of point of the new head coach is going to be the right hire. And if you get the right hire, they're going to know you got to keep Mickey Joseph. So I'm honestly not worried about that. It doesn't even register in my head that it would be possible not to have Mickey here next year. So I don't even worry about it. I don't think about it. It just kind of, it's something people question sometimes and worry about and want to know, oh, well, will he be back or not, or this or that. And yeah, who knows if he will or won't technically, but we all kind of know the answer there. So, getting through chat, guys. There's a lot now. Stacy says, remember, Bo Pelini was made head coach after only being a linebackers coach. Okay, that's not true. That's not true. So, Bo Pelini was a defensive coordinator. So, he was the defensive coordinator at Nebraska in 2003, who turned into the linebackers. He was the linebackers coach at the Packers in 2000, 2002. He turned into the defensive coordinator at Nebraska, who then turned into the interim head coach at Nebraska, who then left and was the co-DC at OU, then the DC at LSU, then back, let me scroll down a little bit, then back to the head coach at Nebraska. So he had significant, that's 4 years of defensive coordinator and 1 year of interim head coach experience. And he did it at really touted schools. LSU, OU, Nebraska. LSU won the national championship in 2007, right? Am I wrong? Why am I thinking they won the national championship? They did. They won the national championship in Bo Pelini's third season there. So, yeah, Bo Pelini had a little bit more experience in that regard. I'm not saying that Mickey doesn't deserve a chance at head coach. I've never said that. I think it's a really tough situation, and I think you run a risk if you take him. You also run a risk if you lose him, right? We're all at the point where we want to make sure whatever choice is made, it's the most reasonable choice, and it provides the highest likelihood that Nebraska is going to be successful going forward. That's all I've got to say on the situation. I made a whole video about the pros and cons for Mickey. And at the end of it, it was really hard for me to give you guys my choice. If I had to say gun to my head, Mickey or no Mickey, it's tough. It's really tough. Back to chat. Moss Fishing says, is Vance Joseph a good DC? He's been a good DC. He was a good DC at Miami, I believe it was. This is all pro. I don't think he's been a college DC ever. So at the Dolphins, he was a good DC. That led him to getting the Denver Broncos job. Following that, he left for, I think it was the Cardinals, and he's been there ever since, I think. Don't think there was a stop in between. Don't quote me. Anyway, Vance has been good. He hasn't been great as of late, but the Cardinals haven't been great either. His defense is kind of mediocre this year. But my question is less about how good is he recently, because we know he has the proof in the past. He's been good at times. Um, how well would he mesh with Mickey if Mickey was the head coach, and how awkward does it become? Because we've talked about this before. Bo Pelini's brother was his defensive coordinator, and there were times when he should have fired him, right? Nebraska's defense really struggled at times. 12 to 14, really not good. They had given up 40 points, 70 points. They were giving up points like crazy. Wisconsin ran wild on them. I think Melvin Gordon broke the rushing record in Bo Pelini's final year under that guy. So Brian Ferentz. So Brian Ferentz' son is the offensive coordinator. If I'm an Iowa fan, I'm calling for Ferentz's head, the younger one, the kid who runs the offense, because he hasn't been productive at all. You got to get rid of him. If Mickey brings on his brother, that puts him in a predicament. You got to either keep your brother or fire him, and it makes it kind of uncomfortable. So I don't know. It's a tricky situation, man. It's a tricky situation. I'm not sure. Tater says the offense now compared to when Scott would take it over is night and day. Whipple needs more time alongside Mickey Joseph. So I agree with this comment, honestly. Scott Frost was really good at moving the ball downfield. He had a lot of help from a guy who played here for 4 years, Adrian. He could not score. He could not convert on third down. Their red zone offense was atrocious, and that's why Nebraska lost so many games over the last few years. They could not score in short yardage situation, and Scott Frost would go for it at times. Think back to the Michigan game last year. He went for it on like 4th and 1 and couldn't convert, and Michigan ultimately got the ball back. There were multiple times like that where Nebraska just needed a couple more points and they couldn't get them. So, yeah, the Mark Whipple offense, in my opinion, has been a bit more impressive even with no offensive line. This is the worst offensive line Nebraska's had in the entire Scott Frost era, by the way. And that says something to the focus that was put on the O&D line. It's unfortunate. You really wish. Scott Frost recruited great when it came to athletes, linebackers, tight ends, everybody except for the O-line and D-line. And the D-line has some good recruits. I mean, even the offensive line has some highly rated recruits. And some of them, people have said, oh, well, you recruited high-rated 4-stars, but those high-rated 4-stars weren't actually good recruits. Well, go and look at the other schools who were recruiting them. I believe Turner Corcoran was being recruited by Ohio State. Nebraska had to beat out Ohio State and Oklahoma or somebody big like that to steal him away. Turner Corcoran hasn't panned out, and is that because Turner Corcoran or is that because of the coaches? Who knows? Hopefully we find out next year. But they projected him to be a multi-year Power 5 starter and a day 1 or day 2 draft pick. I mean, okay, back on track. The offensive line's been a situation, and the offense hasn't been as productive because of it. I still believe Mark Whipple's been he's been a bright spot. As much of a bright spot as you can ask for. Mystic Ty says, great stream. Thank you. Hopefully Duval gets the boot and we can revamp our strength and conditioning program. I think this is inevitable. The strength and conditioning has been I don't oh wait, I just locked myself out. Hang on, guys. I don't know if you can still see me. Okay, good. I'm back in. So the strength and conditioning has been abysmal. And we need somebody in there who can get it right. I don't know if it's Duval's fault. I don't know if Duval was told to do something specific by the coach, Scott Frost. I don't know what went wrong, but something did go wrong. I think it's less about what these guys have the potential to do, because I'm sure Duval's a good strength and conditioning coach. I'm sure that something he was told to do or something that he was limited from the head coach before, something happened that held this team back. And we just need new energy. That's kind of my point. We need to bring somebody new in, clear out what doesn't work, and let's just get this thing right. No hard feelings to anybody who is here under Scott Frost. Even Travis Fisher, for example. Guy's been pretty solid. There have been rumors that he could get hired at Georgia or some other schools, and West Virginia, some others, whatever. The point is, I feel strongly about hitting the reset button. Let's just move forward. Let's clear the old out, get the new in. The only old I really want to keep are guys who came in this year. Bill Bush. Bill Bush's been here a while, but he doesn't count. Bill Bush, Mickey Joseph, maybe an Applewhite. Everybody else, honestly, let's just get some new energy in here and get it rolling. That's my opinion on it. So we'll see. People are funny. And you still has a strength and conditioning program. Yeah, it's been tough. Keep Sean Beckton. Keep Barrett Ruud. So Barrett's been good. Here's the question. Say you keep Barrett Ruud. You keep Sean Beckton. The whole idea of getting this new coach in and this new staff and this new energy is that you have something new and fresh, new ideas, because these old ideas that these guys are tied to didn't work for whatever reason. And although they've been good, they were a part of the bad. It's like you got to remove the whole cancer. Keep in mind when you get a new head coach, the only way you keep any of these guys is if you keep Mickey Joseph. And then Mickey Joseph has the choice to say, okay, well, I've got to rebuild a staff. Let me keep X, Y, Z. Let me bring in A, B, C, right? If you bring in a new head coach, the only two guys who really have any hope, in my opinion, are Mickey and Bill Bush. Pretty much everybody else is out of luck because this new guy's going to want to build his own staff. Just my guess. So I don't know. It's like I said, it's just a guess. I don't know, guys. I'm going to make some picks for this weekend, though. Give you guys some of my bets. So, I love playing college football. Like, playing college football as in making bets on games. Tonight, I'm on Oregon State plus 4.5. They love running the ball. I'm also taking the over in this game because Washington has Michael Penix, who's a great pocket passing quarterback, and they're playing at home. They're going to score points. So, I think this one's going over. But my favorite play is plus 4.5 on Oregon State. I think they could win outright. Really quick, you guys know the channel sponsors BroThrow. The reason that I bet on BroThrow as opposed to any of these other apps or sites, number one, I'm in California, so it's harder for me to use those other sites. But number two, they don't have a VIG. So you can bet with people. And when you bet, if you bet $50, you win $50. Bet $5, you win $5. If I want to bet $5 or if I want to win $5 on a regular site or at a casino, I've got to bet $5.50. You got to bet more to win less. So that unfair house advantage is wiped away on BroThrow. And if you wipe away that house advantage over time, the math adds up to saving a lot of money. If I'd be betting with my regular bookie, how I bet, every year and what I was doing before I signed up for BroThrow, I would have lost $240 on my losses. Instead, I've saved $240 by using this site. So I've saved a lot of money. My friends and my dad have saved a lot of money because we're all big gamblers. We like to bet on games. So anyway, just something to keep in mind if you do want to make bets on here. And it's super easy to make bets. You click the bet you want. I'm betting $5 on Wisconsin -5. Bang. You type in your PIN. My bet's posted. And now someone's going to accept it. It's that easy. So just want to show you guys how it works. But anyway, let's make some picks. So this Air Force Army, I'm taking the under. Air Force and Army under is hit like every year for the past, I don't know how many years. But yeah, I'm staying on the under. I like Maryland +5 here. I don't know why I even bet Wisconsin. I could have just bet Maryland. But anyway, I like Maryland +5 here. So I'll be writing that tomorrow. I also like Nebraska +14.5. We talked about this yesterday. It was at +16. But I still like 14.5. I think this game ends up being lower scoring. I think at best, Minnesota wins by 2 touchdowns. I think Nebraska can score a little bit. And even if they did score, 20, Minnesota, I don't think scoring over 35. I think that one's going to be pretty close. So 35-21, Nebraska still covers. We'll see. Other games, I like Charlotte. They've been consistent for me. They're getting 16 points at home against Western Kentucky, so I'm taking the 16. This one's been what I've been thinking about a lot. I love Kentucky. I love Will Levis. They got blown out last week at Tennessee. Absolutely obliterated. And Missouri's coming off a big win at South Carolina. My guess is Kentucky bounces back. And Missouri does have a good defense, but Kentucky and a pick 'em, I got to ride with Kentucky. Haven't placed it yet, but that's where I'm leaning right now. Tulsa's another team I like to bet. +7 at home against Tulane. Tulane's a good football team, but I think Tulsa is too. I'm riding the +7. Texas A&M finally is playing Connor Wegman, 5-star QB, freshman, had one of his best games last week, barely lost to Ole Miss. Florida's nothing special. I'm riding with Texas A&M to have a big week on offense because Connor Wegman's their quarterback now. I think they're finally starting to figure it out. Texas Tech +8 is the play. TCU is eventually going to slow down. They're good, but Texas Tech's been good as well. They haven't been as good on the road, but because they can score a lot of points, I think this one's a 7-point game. I'm taking Texas Tech. I'm taking Virginia Tech -3.5. Georgia Tech, they've been super unimpressive. Virginia Tech's getting better. They just came off a big win a couple weeks ago and they covered for me. I bet them against NC State, I think it was. They covered whatever it was. But yeah, I'm taking Virginia Tech. I like Baylor +3.5 at OU as of now. I haven't placed it, but right now I like that. I'm just a Dave Aranda fan this year. I really like his defense. And if you're giving me 3.5 points, I got to take it. Oklahoma State, Kansas is intriguing to me. I want to know what you guys think in chat. Do you guys think Kansas or Oklahoma State? Because that one, questionable. I don't know, man. Oklahoma State's coming off a huge blowout to Kansas State. They got to go on the road again. Kansas is coming off that bye week. I don't know if Jalen Daniels is back yet, but either way, Kansas has been productive. I am going to ride Tennessee. That line's up to +9. I got it at +8, +8.5. Tennessee should keep this within a touchdown. Everybody thinks Georgia's going to beat them down, win by 10. I'm just riding with Tennessee because I think they are like an LSU. Their offense is really productive. They haven't even been playing with their best receiver for the past 3 or 4 games. I got to ride Tennessee while they're hot. I'm playing Pitt -4. What else is in here that I liked? This LSU Bama one, I don't know. I'd probably lean Bama, but it's a night game at LSU. You never know what's going to happen. I'm definitely playing Texas -2.5. This line is confusing to me. Kansas State getting 2.5 at home at night after they had that huge blowout win doesn't make much sense. Texas, I mean, to me, they aren't as good as Kansas State. So that line's asking you to take Kansas State. I think I'm going to have to ride Texas. Let's see. Clemson, Notre Dame. I haven't made a pick yet. I would think Notre Dame's the play. Getting +4 at home at night. You would think Clemson would be favored by a little bit more than that. I don't know what the deal is there. And yeah, those are my picks for this week. If you want to join BroThrow, you can join our group by going to brothrow.com/GBR. Tyler just joined, so now I'm just going to hit admit user, and now he is in and he is part of the group. So just so you know, we've got 464 members in here. Here are all the bets that are open by members. So Braden's got a bet out there. Vincent's got a bet. Randall, Tyler, Braden. So everybody, these are all Corn Crazed subscribers. They've all got these bets out here, and you can go and take them against them. Or you can just go up here to regular bets, and you can bet against anybody on the site. That's how it works. So pretty simple, pretty cool. Look at this. Look at all these bets, man. It's a lot of options you can take. So anyway, I don't usually take these. I just open my own bet. I just click here, hit open a bet, spread, and take what I want. So that's how that works, guys. I've shown you before, but hopefully you make some money. I'm on a hot streak. I've won 4 college football games in a row this week. Last week, I had a winning week on college football. I had a winning week on the NFL. I went 4-1 on the NFL. I've been hot. I'm up a little bit right now. I had some down moments. I think I started off on BroThrow down 500, and I've gone on a $700 run. So that's been good. But I'm going to get to chat, see what you guys are thinking, because I neglected chat for a minute. David likes Penn State to cover. David likes Clemson to cover. And he likes Michigan. No, he likes Rutgers to cover against Michigan. Interesting. About players against players in the up-and-coming games. Daniel says, do you put up videos where you talk about players against players in the upcoming games and what each one needs to do to win the game anymore? I haven't done any like player versus player videos. I typically do a video where I talk about the matchup for each game and I make a pick, like a prediction and a preview for the game. I didn't do that this week for the Minnesota game because honestly, I was like frustrated and I was thinking to myself, I'd rather make a coach video, and this week feels like it's going to be a loss either way. The energy was just low around the program. I wasn't getting as many views as I was on those videos. I think people just stopped tuning in as much. So rather than making those videos, I decided to go live a couple times this week and just make the Mickey Joseph video. But next week for the Michigan game, I will have a preview video because I think a lot of Michigan fans will want to watch that. So that one should do well. And yeah. And Daniel, I didn't make the video because it would have been a very sad video this week. Honestly, the breakdown would have said Minnesota would have gone for a blowout, and the stats said it. And we didn't even know anything about the quarterbacks, who was going to play or anything. So it was tough. But yeah, I will be back next week with a Michigan preview. I'll have a Wisconsin preview, and I will have an Iowa preview. So this was the only week that we're not doing a game preview specifically on Minnesota. So yeah, we'll be back. But we normally do those every week. So just 1 week off. JJ says, if Nebraska loses but covers, is that considered a good thing for Mickey Joseph? Or is a loss a loss? I'd say competitive games are a win for Mickey at this point. If he can keep games close and show that the team's playing inspired football, yeah, I think it's a win for sure. Covers, as in wins by 14, I mean, that's not as big of a deal. Covers and loses by 7 is in it until the very end. I think that's important. You want to see the players play inspired. That was a big deal, and that's why Trev Alberts kept Scott Frost last year. Last year, Scott Frost, one of the primary reasons he got kept was because Nebraska was in it to the end with a ton of Big Ten teams. They were in it to the end with almost every team they played against, no matter how highly they were rated, no matter how far they went in the playoff. Michigan went down to the fourth quarter, and they lost by 3. So, yeah, it's important for sure. David says, Michigan hasn't pulled away until the fourth quarter all season against a Big Ten team. Plus, they've struggled against Rutgers lately. That's a good point, David. That's a great point. They're at Rutgers, too. And Rutgers has a decent defense. I kind of like Rutgers now that you're saying it. Interesting. Rutgers has taken it to the wire a couple times over the past 3 years with Michigan. Not to the wire, but to the wire in terms of spread and kept it tight within 10 or 14 points. So I do like that. Travis says, what do you think about giving Mickey a short-term contract at head coach? I don't like it. I think you got to give him some time, right? People talk about it all the time. Well, you can flip a team instantly now because of the transfer portal. Well, you can when it comes to athletes and defensive players. But it's really hard to flip a team with no offensive line. You got to give him some time to develop some guys, some freshmen who come in that he can recruit, some junior college guys. So short-term contract as in 1 year, 2 years, a little bit tough. Short-term contract as in 3 or 4 years, maybe that's more doable. I just don't think these 2 years or less is really fair to Mickey Joseph. He deserves 3 or 4 years to try and get it fixed. My opinion, and that opinion is entirely on the offensive line. That's why. You need more time to develop them. But anyway, guys, it's 6:30. We've been on here for an hour and 15 minutes. I will be back here tomorrow after the Nebraska-Minnesota game. I haven't decided if I'll do the live stream at night and do an entire reaction, or if I'll just do the live stream tomorrow right after the Nebraska game. Maybe I'll do a night reaction to everything and then an afternoon reaction to just the Nebraska game. Either way, I hope to see you there. And until next time, well, actually, before I leave, please hit the like button, and because it helps more people find this video, hit the like button, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Go Big Red.